Tonight on CTV, hear about LGBTQ plus safe spaces and new art gallery on campus and what's happening with graduate student fees.
Then take a look at what happened this snow day, faculty's opinion on new President Amy Parsons, and find out why you haven't been seeing these beloved geese around campus.
All this and more tonight on CTV.
Good evening, Rams. I'm Naomi Hillmer.
And I'm JJ Mckinney. Thank you for joining us tonight.
A pedestrian was fatally injured Tuesday night after being hit by a bus on the 6500 block of Portner Road in Fort Collins. An adult male was found on the scene of the accident when the police arrived and was transported to a nearby hospital, where he was pronounced deceased due to his injuries. The bus driver was not injured, and there is no suspicion of driver impairment at this time.
Stephen McNeil was arrested on suspicion of homicide after authorities and medical personnel found Danielle Hopton with fatal injuries in the parking lot of a Fort Collins apartment last year. McNeil, Hopton, and 3 others were spotted driving around in said parking lot the night of Hopton's death. McNeil, Hopton, who reportedly already had an abusive relationship filled with domestic abuse, according to previous police reports, stepped out of the car and got into an argument about the relationship. After a while, screams were heard, and McNeil came back to the vehicle and said Hopton was dead. McNeil will be sentenced March 24th and faces up to 40 years in prison for Hopton's murder.
A Fort Collins police officer pled guilty to a misdemeanor assault charge on Tuesday after being arrested last May. According to an arrest affidavit, FCPD's Valerie Pedraza headbutted a victim in an argument outside of their home, causing minor injuries. She also intended on damaging their home security cameras with a large metal rod. Pedraza was fired from the Fort Collins Police Department last November, and after entering a guilty plea for the third-degree assault, was sentenced to 18 months in jail. Now we're going to go to Adam Carlson here to bring you this week's weather forecast. Adam?
Thanks, guys. Good evening, Rams. My name's Adam Carlson, and I am here to give you your weather rundown for the week. Current conditions, we're going to see it's cloudy out, 30 degrees, humidity about 57, and 7-mile-per-hour wind. Now, historically, January is the windiest month in Fort Collins, but it may be time to look at the cold temperatures. This weekend, we will be hitting the negatives at least for a little. Being outdoors in negative temperatures is not advised for more than 30 minutes, so make sure to keep your trips as short as possible. Heading into overnight lows, we're going to see down that I-25 corridor and in the Eastern Plain, mostly 20s, with Lamar and Lyman hitting us in those 13 and 14 respectively. Heading over to Craig, we're going to see 16 degrees, and the rest of the western side, all over the place. -10 in Gunnison and -8 in Alamosa, and everywhere else just a little bit warmer than that. Now, tomorrow's highs is going to be pretty much our last warm day before the storm hits. Generally, Eastern Plain I-25, 30s and 40s, Pueblo even hitting 50. Then when we head over to the northwest side, Craig and Vale both at 27, and then we have the rest in those 30s and 20s. Now, tomorrow, what can we expect for Fort Collins, 37 as our high and 20 as our low. It's going to be cloudy out, and humidity is about the same, and it's the last we can expect for this warm weather because over the weekend we're going to get snow all week long. Now, don't let it throw you too off guard. We're not supposed to get more than an inch, but it's going to get cold. Monday night even hitting -1. But Tuesday, Wednesday will bring us back up, but not quite to where we are right now. And that brings me to the end of the weather rundown for you all. But stay tuned, because JJ and Naomi have more news after the break.
Living with someone you don't know on the other side of the wall is hard, especially if you don't know how to be a good roommate. The first thing that you'll want to do to be a good roommate is make sure that you always stay quiet. Be considerate of others when using common spaces and appliances.
Hey buddy, what you doing?
I'm just gonna need like 40 minutes. Be respectful of your roommate's privacy. Ugh, my bad. Finally, make sure that you clean up after yourself. Oh, fresh toothbrush.
you see my toothbrush?
Follow these tips to get along with your roommates and your landlord.
Welcome back from the break.
After months of searching, Colorado State has hired the 16th president of the university, businesswoman Amy Parsons. Coming off the departure of former President Joyce McConnell last year, Amy Parsons became president-elect on December 16th. However, not everyone was satisfied with the CSU administrative team's decision in leadership, with staff and faculty alike voicing their concerns about Parsons. CSU faculty have been pushing back against Parsons' hiring, expressing reservations about her to former interim President Rick Miranda in several meetings leading up to her election. One of the concerns brought up was Parsons' work history, which some faculty members believe make her unqualified for the job. Parsons has had a 16-year background in the CSU system as the executive vice chancellor before leaving to found e-commerce company Masfiato. This led many faculty members to be dismissive of Parsons, claiming that her background is not aligned with academics or student needs. With multiple sides weighing in about Parsons, from equity to a trend of non-academic hires, many are eager to see if her presidency will be a success. We'll have to see when Parsons is officially sworn into office February 1st.
After nearly 3 years of graduate assistants asking for compensation from CSU, they will now be receiving a 50% decrease in their student fees this spring. This comes from a phased-in approach to compensate mandatory student fees, which have been around $1,200 each semester in the past. Since 2019, graduate assistants have been rallying for a change. Cassidy Esposito is one of many graduate teaching assistants who feel underpaid, even after CSU has made efforts to increase their compensation.
When I first came in, there wasn't a lot of transparency about finances. That's probably the case with all departments, and even as an undergraduate, there's not a lot of transparency about what kind of student fees do and what they're for and why they exist.
CSU's Graduate Workers Organizing Cooperative, or GWOC, started the campaign for greater compensation. But their first big rallying cry is yet to be satisfied. As GWOC attests this victory partially to their cooperative's hard work, they also give thanks to interim President Rick Miranda, who helped cut through the red tape, working with colleagues like the Associate Dean of Graduate School and the Graduate Student Council President.
It's been a really nice example of how campus can come together to address a critical need and really solve it.
To them, covering these fees are a way to not only make CSU's graduate program more competitive, but also improve the lives of many students on campus.
You cannot be your best version if your basic needs aren't being met. And this is why CSU is saying, hi, we heard you, you've been saying these things. And we acknowledge that we also want you to be your best.
Hopefully in the long term, it means something that the grad school was able to really push for this and that the university answered, but I still think there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
CSU plans to reach 100% compensation by 2025, and while this is a stride in the right directions for CSU, graduate assistants are left wanting more. Now, live in the studio, Abby Flores is here to talk about the risks of romance scams here in Fort Collins. Abby?
Thanks, guys. Online dating is a popular way to meet people. However, it may not be the answer to happily ever after. Back in 2021, the Fort Collins Police Services began warning people about dating scams after an elderly woman fell victim into giving $20,000 to a stranger. Although her money was able to be returned, dating scams are still prevalent in the community.
In this day and age, online relationships are very common. You can meet anyone from just about anywhere. It is important to note, however, that getting scammed is possible. The Fort Collins Police Services recently made a Facebook post that brings awareness to the issue. I asked students around the LSC about their thoughts on online dating and how they know if something is a scam.
I mean, generally they'll come in through either emails or text. Calls, they have like the thing where they say scam likely, or it'll just be a number that I don't recognize. If I don't recognize a number, I generally just don't pick up.
Oh, one of my buddies back home was scammed and actually got his information stolen when he was a little younger, and they like hacked onto his Snapchat and all that stuff. but that was actually really tough, and they ended up just deleting his account.
I get those like sugar daddy DMs on Instagram, but like they're pretty obviously fake, and I've never been scammed by one of those.
I mean, usually it's got something wrong with it, like it'll be like a whack email address or have some links in it that it's telling you to click. Usually try to stay away from those.
Yeah, some grammatical errors.
Yeah,
I also like the way it's worded, like it kind of seems like robot-y or like, trying to get a general public area instead of just one person.
Yeah, see, just don't give money to people that you don't really know. That's what I would say.
Be genuine to who you are and never let anyone influence your decisions and what you think. And in the end, no matter what goes on through your head, it's all up to you. And your mind and your soul is what really matters then.
If you are online, be sure to stay safe and aware with who you are talking to. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Abby. Have you noticed something different about Fort Collins recently? Drivers have noticed that they haven't had to honk their horns at geese crossing the street, or haven't had them come up to you on a stroll around Fort Collins' natural areas. This is because officials from the Colorado Department of Agriculture have confirmed at least a dozen geese dead around Sheldon Lake. The public is being warned to stay away from these geese in what is being called a large mortality event. According to the Colorado Department of Agriculture, these cause of these deaths is likely linked to the spread of avian influenza by Canadian geese that have made their way to Larimer County. Due to the virus's ability to spread, birds have picked it up from saliva, feces, and bird carcasses. Since November 20th, more than 2,000 snow geese have died from the virus. It's uncommon for the avian flu to spread to humans. However, it can spread to animals. The CDC has set guidelines that concerned animal owners can use, such as monitoring your pet for flu-like symptoms and keeping their spaces clean from any disease-infected animals.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back from the break. I'm Bella Walser. In collaboration with CSU's Asian Pacific American Cultural Center, the Griffin Foundation Gallery is featuring an exhibition called The Beginning in the Land Around Me, which includes a series of projects inspired by the shared history and trauma of nuclear weapons.
The art used for The Beginning in the Land Around Me stems from the idea of healing and redemption. The artist Ki Ido found inspiration for his art through his own personal connection to the nuclear experience, as he hopes to create an environment for discussion.
So my grandfather was in Hiroshima when the A bomb exploded. He survived the bomb, but many of his family passed from cancer and leukemia. And one of his baby sister, who makes my great aunt, was at the ground zero, vaporized right away, never to be found. So that fueled him to be an activist, anti-nuclear activist, who fought against the use of the nuclear weapon throughout his life until he too passed away when I was 9 years old. Right before he passed, he told me that the day of Hiroshima was like hundreds of suns lighting up the sky. And the statement of hundreds of suns haunted my whole life until even today. Influenced me to use specifically only the sunlight to create my photographic prints.
The exhibition is located in the Gregory Alicar Museum of Art at 1400 Remington Street until April 2nd. If you're interested in hearing more from the artists, the Center for Fine Art Photography will be hosting a virtual artist talk on March 1st. Now, back to JJ here to talk about safe spaces for members of the LGBTQ+ community here in Fort Collins.
Thanks, Bella. For decades, the LGBTQ+ community has been looking for a place to belong and be their authentic selves, all while fighting for their civil rights. The local LGBTQ+ drag venue, the R Bar and Lounge, is Fort Collins' community's way of providing that safety and security. Drag queen Chloe Katz has had a long journey on the road to self-love and acceptance, coming from a Nebraskan Christian background.
I was born and raised Holy Ghost Pentecostal Christian. So for me, I had to do a lot of disassociation from theology in order to actually accept my sexual orientation.
With over 5 million people in the U.S. in the LGBTQ+ community coming from religious backgrounds and homes often with negative views towards homosexuality, according to UCLA, it can be hard to find a place to belong.
At the end, I was able to come to that acceptance of who I truly was, and that's a big part of it. But the second biggest part of it is finding your tribe.
That's where the R Bar and a Lounge comes to help.
It's just all family here. Like, if you come in here, you're family. And we've tried to really build that in the last 7 years. This is an alternative bar, so everybody is welcome here.
A host of various events, especially drag shows open to the entire community, the R Bar shines in more ways than one.
Ages-friendly drag brunch. So it's myself, another entertainer, and then this underage entertainer who's 14 years old and is incredible.
With drag queens showing love and pride, and with community members feeling more accepted and showing support, the LGBT community may have more places like R Bar, encouraging those who need places to feel safe to belong to come.
Love yourself, love yourself. Once you can accept and love yourself for who you truly authentically are, then you can go from there and find your safe space, find your tribe, and you can come and you can be a part of something bigger than yourself, and you can be shown love just for being who you truly are.
Safe spaces like the R Bar may be around the corner to anyone who is looking for a community to call home.
The R Bar seemed like it was a really fun place to visit. What was it like there?
Oh, it was just loud. Like, first and foremost, loud. But everybody there was so accepting and just wonderful. And I remember there was a person who specifically ran, like, he didn't mean to run into me, but he ran into me. And he said, "Oh, my bad, dude." But then he also took the time to say, "Hey, it's dude, correct? Like, am I getting your pronouns right?" And while I'm cisgender myself, the fact that he took the time to even say something and to be honest about it, it was just a really fun and accepting place.
Yeah, it seems like it was, like, as you said, a very safe place to be and a fun place to be. And speaking of fun, I had a lot of fun last Wednesday during our snow day. Here to tell you about more fun snow day activities is Zoe Weir.
Thanks, Naomi. Last week, CSU students eagerly awaited the email to hear the good news that all classes were canceled. It was a snow day. After spending my day sledding with friends, I was interested to see how other students spent their day off.
Hey Rams, this is Zoe Weir. I'm out here today on the plaza and I will be asking CSU students what they did on their snow day.
On my snow day, I finished my application to be an RA for next school year and just got dinner with friends. So it was a really chill day.
I just stayed home and watched Vampire Diaries with my roommates all day.
Fun.
I went snowboarding. He didn't take me snowboarding, so I built a snowman.
I did a lot of things. I cooked and I went sledding with my friends. My friend has a rat. His name's James. He has a lot of rats, and I got to play with his rats.
Where did you go sledding?
Right at Eudora, off of Horsetooth.
I stayed at home and studied, so pretty boring, but productive. Oof, sleep, drink hot chocolate.
I had a really fun day with all of my friends. And I went to the basketball game.
Went snowboarding, went to Eldora, it was pretty chill. And then went back, just chill with the homies, that's about it.
Perfect, thank you, that sounds fun.
Let's go!
After having the opportunity to get to hear what CSU students like to do on their snow day, I came to one of my favorite places to hit the slopes. I'm here at Fossil Creek Park. You can come on down here to get your sledding on with your friends.
I know that I'm looking forward to the next snow day and will definitely be heading back to that sledding hill. We'll be back with sports after this break.
Welcome back from the break, Rams. My name is Madeline Davis, and I will be your Thursday night sports anchor this semester. I am so excited to be here, and I have some fun stories planned, including a preview of CSU men's basketball upcoming game against Boise State. So without further ado, let's get right into it. If you happened to tune in on Tuesday, you heard about that rough loss CSU suffered to its rivals up north, the Wyoming Cowboys. Throw in the overtime blunder to San Diego State a week ago, and the Rams will be looking to bounce back after 2 close losses. And their next counterpart will be the Boise State Broncos up in Idaho on Saturday. Before we discuss what the Rams must do to get back in the win column, let's dig deeper into the Broncos season thus far. Boise State is currently sitting at 6-2 in conference and 16-5 overall. Similar to last year, the Broncos had a bit of an inconsistent start to the season, dropping their home opener to South Dakota State, but seemingly they've rebounded. In the Mountain West, the Broncos have been nothing but dominant, and while their record does show 2 losses, that can be a bit deceiving as they've both been measly 2-point disappointments to a pair of strong Mountain West teams in Nevada and 25th ranked New Mexico. When looking at the scores, there's no doubt that Boise is the better team in most of their matchups, blowing out a slew of Mountain West opponents. And like their tournament bid in 2022, the Broncos are once again making a compelling case for being atop of the Mountain West Conference once again. Most of that in part to a talented veteran roster. And the 2 names that arguably stand out the most are Tyson Degenhart and Max Rice. Degenhart, who is already establishing quite the name for himself in league play, as only a sophomore, is averaging 14 points and nearly 6 rebounds per outing. Meanwhile, if there's one word to describe Rice, it's accurate. The senior guard lights it up from the field, consistently scoring in the double digits, and his field goal percentages are impressive. But what's even more impressive is his free throw shooting. If he gets to the charity stripe, look out, because those are easy free points for the Broncos. As for Degenhart, anyone who paid attention last year saw his incredible first-hand play, as he was named Mountain West Freshman of the Year. The best word to describe him is solid. When he wants to score, he will. While his 6'7" frame has a lot to do with that, there's really no definitive weakness in his game. He can play in the paint, he's fantastic on the boards, and he can even shoot the 3 pretty well for a big man. It's no wonder he's shooting over 50% on the season. Once again, overall, just a solid player. Another shining spot, of course, is senior guard Max Rice. While Rice may be the son of Boise State head coach Leon Rice, don't let that fool you. There's no coach's son treatment going on here. This kid is one sharp shooter. His agility and athleticism make him a menace in the backcourt. If the Rams want any chance of pulling off the upset, they have to limit his playmaking abilities. CSU will also need to get consistent production from their own players as well. Boise State is a dangerous group, and it's going to be a serious battle for the Rams to honestly even stay in this one. But we saw what happened with San Diego State, so maybe this game will be closer than we expect. Speaking of close contests, let's take a look at how the women are faring against the New Mexico Lobos right now in Moby. If you watched on Tuesday, Leah predicted that this one would be all Rams. Let's see if that's faring true. Right now, we see the score is 24-18. I believe that's CSU. Their stats, McKenna Hofschild with only 4 points, which is a little a little low for right now. It's it's 24-18 Lobos. So right now it looks like New Mexico is kind of taking the lead, which if you know anything about New Mexico women's basketball, they always have a strong program. Last year it was a bit of a surprise when the Rams actually bested them in the Mountain West tournament. But we'll see how it works. Magruder right now is shooting 7, has 7 points, I think that says, for New Mexico. So we'll definitely have to see how this one turns out. But the Rams, they've had some slumps earlier in the season, early in the game, but then they've come back. So it all depends on the second half. And well, Rams, that's all the time we have for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. Be sure to tune in next Tuesday for more sporting news. In the meantime, take care and have a great night.